Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om. Reading Canto 10, Chapter 13, from verses 16 to 24. And we'll be focusing on verse 19. I will also put it on my laptop, so I'm on the same page. As soon as it's up on the screen, Amala Prabhu, please start reading. After we read the text, the translations, I was hoping that I can do it then. Should I do it before?
Yeah, because they will not understand what.
Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Let's talk a little about Srimad Bhagavatam. I was thinking that because it is very important to understand what Bhagavatam is for. So I will speak just a little, very briefly, so we are all on the same page. Srimad Bhagavatam, like if you know anything about Bhagavad Gita, you know that it was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? So it is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, it starts as a dialogue between who? Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Now, Parikshit Maharaj, his circumstances were quite unfortunate, so to speak, or so it appears. But they looked a bit unfortunate because he was cursed to die in how many days?
7 days.
7 days. So things happened, and it so happened that he was cursed to die in 7 days. And so he was wondering, now that my life is ending, what do I do with it? You know, what do I do in these 7 days that I have my body left? And so it happens that he has a dialogue with Shukadeva Goswami, and we're reading about their conversation. And Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes Krishna, but it doesn't just describe Krishna, it introduces him to us, right? We often complain that we don't know enough about God. There's not enough things that I can rely on, reliable sources, authorized sources that I can go to. And to that, well, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's everything that you need to know about the Lord, starting from what is his position, how great is he, you know, what are his potencies. I can't even begin to describe everything, but what is his personality? What is he like? What does he like? And how is he conversing, or how is his relationship with his devotees? And we get to learn all about that. And especially Canto 10 is very, very special because starting from Canto 1, we get to know a little bit about all the avatars or incarnations of the Lord. And we learn to look at the Lord or perceive the Lord in a mood of reverence. Because once you understand someone's position, once you understand how great they are, that's when you can start to understand their heart in a way. Because when someone has all that Krishna has, he chooses to be kind, he chooses to be gentle, and the Lord that we know him as, right? So Canto 10 is the most confidential pastimes of the Lord, and Canto 10 is also something that the Little Krishna series is based upon from Srimad Bhagavatam. And the confidentiality is not just in the events that happened, but in the depth of the events. All the devotees, or every listener that listens to these pastimes of the Lord, they perceive each of these pastimes very differently. There's different layers to every pastime. And that's why it's confidential, because it reveals the heart of the Lord and what he feels, what he thinks when he's interacting with his favorite associates. And so we're reading about that. The last chapter, the chapter before this one, talked about the demon Agasur, the snake demon, who is said to be death personified, but Krishna defeats him because he's greater than death. And after that happens, he, along with his associates and the calves, he goes to the forest again because he wants to bring up the mood, keep the vibes going. And so he takes all his friends, the gopas and the calves, to the forest. And it so happens that the forest has very tasty grass, and the calves just wander away, far away, to eat that tasty grass. And so while that is happening, Krishna is sat in the middle of the circle, or like layers of circles, which resembles a lotus flower, and the layers of the petals were the gopas, and he was seated in the middle. And it's beautiful because that's what the famous painting is based upon, and it's one of my favorite ones. So it's beautiful to know that all the gopas had a lot of love for Krishna, and they would bring these offerings for Krishna, and he would eat from the gopas' plates. It is said that Krishna only accepts offerings as a sacrifice, right? A yajna, from a yajna. He only accepts those. But all the demigods and the residents of the heaven and the heavenly planets, they were all confused. How is Krishna interacting with the gopas like this? How is he, so to speak, cosplaying as a cowherd boy? How can he do this? He's eating with his left hand. He's eating from the plates of others who are also eating. You know how we shouldn't offer the Lord something that we've already consumed, because we want him to consume it first. But Krishna doesn't care about that in his pastimes in Gokul and Vrindavan, right? And so the demigods are confused, and a very special certain someone is also witnessing these pastimes, and he gets very bewildered. And that person is Brahma. He's the creator of our universe. And he looks at the Lord and he's like, this can't be the same Lord whom I came from. And this can't be the same Lord that gave me the power or the ability or the capability to create this universe, right? And he's like, this certainly can't be the Lord. And so just to test this theory, I'm going to do something. And that's what we're reading about in this chapter, which is entitled The Stealing of the Boys and Calves by Brahma. With that said, and without further ado, would you prefer we just read it from text one, just the translations? Too long? Okay. I'll just give the summary then later. Okay. 16, please.
Thereafter, when Krishna was unable to find the cows, he returned to the bank of the river. But there he was also unable to see the cowherd boys. Thus he began to search for both the cows and the boys, as if he could not understand what had happened.
When Krishna was unable to find the cows and the caretakers, the cowherd boys anywhere in the forest, he could suddenly understand that this was the work of Lord Brahma.
Thereafter, just to create pleasure, both of Brahma and for the mothers of calves and cowherd boys, Krishna, the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, expanded himself as calves and boys.
By his Vasudev feature, Krishna simultaneously expanded himself into the exact number of missing cowherd boys and cows, with their exact bodily features, their particular type of hands, legs, and other limbs, their sticks, bugles, and flutes, their lunch bags, their particular types of dress and ornaments placed in various ways, their names, ages, and forms, and their special activities and characteristics. By expanding himself in this way, beautiful Krishna proved the statement, Samagra Jagat Vishnu Maya, Lord Vishnu is all-pervading.
Text 20. Now expanding himself so as to appear as all the cows and cowherd boys, all of them as they were, and at the same time appear as their leader. Krishna entered Brajabhumi, the land of his father, Nanda Maharaj, just as he usually did while enjoying their company.
O Maharaj Parikshit, Krishna, who have divided himself as different calves and also different cowherd boys, and the different cow sheds as the calves and then different homes as different boys.
Text 22. The mothers of the boys, upon hearing the sounds of the flutes and bugles being played by their sons, immediately rose from their household tasks, lifted their boys onto their laps, embraced them with both arms, and began to feed them with their breast milk, which followed forth because of extreme love, specifically for Krishna. Actually, Krishna is everything, but at that time, expressing extreme love and affection, they took special pleasure in feeding Krishna, the Parabrahman, and Krishna drank the milk from his respective mothers as if it were a nectarian beverage.
Text 23. Thereafter, O Maharaja Parikshit, as required according to the scheduled round of his pastimes, Krishna returned in the evening and to the house of each of the cowherd boys and engaged exactly like the foreigner boys, thus, and leaving their mothers with transcendental pleasures, the mother took care of the boys by massaging them with oil, bathing them, smearing their bodies with sandalwood clothes, decorating them with ornaments, chanting protective mantras, decorating their bodies with tilka, and giving them food. In this way, the mother served Krishna personally.
Text 24. Thereafter all the cows entered their different sheds and began moving loudly, calling for their respective calves. The calves arrived, the mothers began licking the calves' bodies again and profusely feeding them with the milk flowing from their milk bags.
So let me give a brief of what happened for these translations to happen. So basically what happened is that, as I said, Brahma was bewildered, and as I also mentioned, the calves, since the grass was so tasty, they began wandering, and at one point, the cowherd boys and Krishna, they couldn't find the calves, and because they've gone too far. And so the cowherd boys, although they were enjoying eating lunch with Krishna, they were like, oh my God, we have to find the calves, we have to locate them, because they're precious. And so Krishna is like, they're enjoying so nicely. I don't want their enjoyment to be interrupted at all. So Krishna is like, you don't worry, you enjoy. I will myself go and look for the calves so I can bring them back. And Krishna, he goes in the search of the calves. And meanwhile, Brahma, who's not conspiring. He's just curious, and he's also thinking of testing Krishna, and so he steals the cowherd boys, and he also steals the calves. So Krishna couldn't find the calves, and when he went back to the spot that his friends were supposed to be at, he couldn't find his friends either. And so he realized that this is Brahma's doing, and so he expanded himself into the calves and the cowherd boys. And with that, we'll recite text 19. Okay, now if you look at this verse, it looks like a bit scary, right? And I was thinking about the meter for this verse, and nothing was fitting, right? But then somehow it so happened that this one melody came to me, and that melody fits very well. And if you've heard this melody, well and good. If you haven't, I will recite the whole verse first, and the second time we'll do call and response, and the third time you will recite it. Is that okay? Yavad vatsa vatsa kalpaka vapur, yavad karang radikam, yavad yasti vishana venu dalashik, Yavad Vibhushambaram Yavad Chila Gunadika Gunabhidakritivyo Yavad Viharadhikam Sarvam Vishnumayam Girongavadaja Sarvasvarupo Babho. Does anyone know this melody? Yes? Is it that melody? I'm not sure. I haven't. So I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't place it, but I remembered that in middle school we used to recite the invocation or like pranam mantra for Mother Saraswati, and this is the melody that I remember. And I think it's beautiful, and so I felt very happy. I honestly felt very happy. I could not contain my happiness. And so we're going to do call and response now. And I will try not to mess it up on the third line. Okay. Yavad vatsapa vatsakalpaka vapur. Yavad karangradhikam. Yavad yasti vishana venudalashek. Yavad vibhushambaram. Yavad chila guna bidhakritivayo. Yavad viharadhikam. Sarvam Vishnumayam Gironya I'll do it again. Sarvam Vishnumayam Girongavadaja. Sarvasvarupo Babho. Yes.
I think we'll leave the.
Really?
Yes. Because.
Time constraint?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes total sense. But I really like this melody. And I was so happy. Anyways, we'll do the synonyms all together. Yes. Yavad Vatsapa. Exactly like the cowherd boys. Vatsaka Alpa Kambu. And exactly like tender bodies of the calves. Yavad Karangrihatikam. Exactly to the measurement of their particular varieties of legs and hands. Yavad Yashti Vishana Venu Dalashik. Not only their bodies, but exactly like their bugles, flutes, sticks, lunch bags, and so on. Yavad Vibhasha Ambaram. Exactly like their ornaments and dresses. Yavad Shila Guna Abhida Akriti Vayaha. Their exact character, habits, features, attributes, and explicit body features. Yavad Vihara Adikam. Exactly according to their taste or amusements. Sarvam, everything in detail. Vishnumayam, expansion of Vasudeva Vishnu. Gira Angavad, voices exactly like theirs. Ajaha, Krishna. Sarva Svarupa, created everything in detail as himself, without any change. We'll read translation altogether. By his Vasudeva feature, Krishna simultaneously expanded himself into the exact number of missing cowherd boys and calves, with their exact bodily features, their particular types of hands, legs, and other limbs, their sticks, bugles, and flutes, their lunch bags, their particular types of dress and ornaments placed in various ways, their names, ages, and forms, and their special activities and characteristics. By expanding himself in this way, beautiful Krishna proved this treatment. Samagra Jagat Vishnumayam. Lord is all pervading. Okay. look at Srimad Bhagavatam as a script for a nice movie. So the purport starts with Brahma Samhita, which, in fact, at this point in time in Srimad Bhagavatam hasn't happened. Srila Prabhupada is quoting Brahma Samhita, and it is, and he's revealing some of the thoughts that Brahma will, all the realizations that Brahma will later share. Yes, and it's beautiful. And so, Adyam, we read about it in the purport. Adyam means the beginning, and it is said that Krishna is Adyam because he's the beginning of everything, and he's also Anta. He's the end of everything also. But to him, who is the beginning and end of everything, there is no beginning and end to himself, right? And he is full or complete or whole in himself. Further in the purport, we also read a verse from Ishopnishad. Which verse it is? I think you know. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnamadaya Purnamavashishyate. What does it mean? He's everywhere? Not quite. Yes.
Yeah, he's complete in himself, and whatever reads from him is also complete.
Yes.
And even after expanding into innumerable forms, he still remains complete.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next time say it louder, but thank you very much. Yes, so what happened is that Brahma steals the cowherd boys and the calves, and although we've heard about this story, but it's so fun to listen, so I might not be able to share anything new, but the pastimes of Krishna are ever new, ever so enjoyable. At the start of this chapter, actually, Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that, "Oh Parikshit, you've been hearing about the pastimes of the Lord for so long, but you're listening to them with intent like they're ever new, that everything you're hearing is new, and you're enjoying them. And because you have approached me with such nice, humble mood, of servitude, I will impart the knowledge or the pastimes of the Lord onto you, which are so very confidential. Most of the population is bereft of this nectar, and we're the few people who get to enjoy it, so why not relish it like it's ever new, right?" So when Brahma steals the cows and the cowherd boys, Krishna's like, he's done it, what can I do? And so Krishna, although he realizes, but if Krishna wanted, he could intimidate Brahma right then and there, right? He could appear right where Brahma was because he knew, and he could retrieve his friends and the calves, right? But he didn't do that, and he also didn't take offense, right? Krishna's so merciful; he didn't take offense, although the mood that Brahma had was to test Krishna, which is not the most ideal mood, right? So Krishna, he decides, you know what? I'm going to pretend like nothing happened, and I will show Brahma just how fun I am. And so he expands himself in as his friends and as the calves. As Monal Prabhu said, Krishna's expansions are also complete and whole in themselves. And there's just so many things that I can go on like different tangents from here, right? I can talk about the gopis' love for Krishna and how Krishna reciprocated with the gopis. I can talk about how intently or how perfectly or how completely Krishna knew all of his cowherd friends and his calves, that he expanded himself perfectly, that not even Lord Balaram could tell until a few nights before the year ended, right? I could go on so many tangents, and it's just so amazing to think of it, but I will start with the gopis' love. Have we read about Damodar pastime? Yeah, we read, right? So we read about all these sweet childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna, and all the gopis and the gopas and everyone, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They're like smitten, they're consumed, they're almost like intoxicated with Krishna, right? Their love is ever so increasing, and although it is said that no one can love their offsprings more than the parents, right? So these inhabitants of Vrindavan, of Raja, they were perfect. They were ideal parents, right? They loved their kids a lot, but they loved Krishna more, and they couldn't help it. They couldn't help it. They did all their duties, and they loved their children fully as they could, but they couldn't help but love Krishna more. And so when we read about all these pastimes, we read about how gopis are conversing amongst themselves, and they say that, oh, I wish I had Krishna as my son. Oh, how sweet is this Krishna? I wish I got to also have such motherly relation with Krishna, because he's so beautiful, he's so sweet, and he's the perfect child. So I wish I could have such a relationship with the Lord. And since I also read in the translations for this chapter that the gopas and all the inhabitants of Raja, they had nothing else in their heart but Krishna. So all the desires that they had, they were somehow or other related to Krishna. And even if they didn't want to admit it, they couldn't help themselves, right, but love Krishna. And so the gopis, they wished very dearly that Krishna could become their son, and Krishna could play with them also, bless them with some pastimes, right? And so Krishna fulfilled their wishes by expanding himself as their sons. And he did it so perfectly that not even the mothers could tell. Whenever something's wrong, our mothers can always tell, right? Sometimes when something's wrong and I'm like sad or not doing so good, I don't even call my mom because I don't want her to see me like that. She's not here in person and she will be worried for nothing. So I don't call her, but she calls me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, right? And so it's like mothers can perceive their kids in a way that no one else can, and that's just their love for their kids. But even the mothers of these sons couldn't tell that it wasn't their son, it was Krishna. Krishna, he played the part very perfectly. Everything Krishna does is so perfect. When he decides to cosplay as someone, he also does it very perfectly. And so it is said that when Krishna expanded himself and returned back to the village, and the cowherd boys or Krishna as cowherd boys, played the bugles and horns and to signal their coming back. The mothers were so happy to see their sons somehow that their breast started to overflow with milk. And I've heard quite some descriptions of how a child's cry, even like another child's cry, can invoke feelings into a new mother, and her milk would start flowing, right? But to think of these gopis who are so enlightened, so enlivened, and so happy to see their sons, that they're in their motherly affections, their body started to secrete milk, right? And forgive me. Where was I? Why? Because he cannot help himself. Okay. No, honestly, where was I? I'm sorry. The affection. Yes, thank you. The affection was ever increasing, and it is described that in the year that Krishna expanded himself into the gopis' sons. The gopas and gopis, their affection for their kid started increasing and increasing and increasing to the point that they couldn't contain themselves. They couldn't understand how this was happening. It was the first time that they weren't just smitten by Krishna, and they were actually like paying more attention to their kids because their kids were Krishna, right? And it is beautiful. If I'm missing something, you can always raise your hands and add. But then I also want to talk about how perfectly Krishna knew his friends and the calves, right? It is in this very verse that we're talking about, it is said that the exact numbers, and by the way, how many calves was Krishna in charge of? 9 lakh? 99. Louder, clearer, it's okay, speak.
9,99,999.
Exactly. And so I myself can't even remember all those names, let alone like knowing how they look like, the characteristics. And you know, with people, you can still tell the difference between like Vajabalak and Vatsal Prabhu, right? But it's like if it's two calves who are the same color and the same complexion, you can't tell the difference much, right? Unless you've spent a lot of time and get to know them personally, you can't understand or you can't differentiate. And it is Krishna's inconceivable, right? It's like he knew how his friends dressed, right? The bugles they carried, how they garlanded themselves, ornamented themselves, how they decorated themselves, or like their mothers decorated them, and how their characteristics, how they behaved, the quirks, and everything that makes the cowherd boy, that cowherd boy, Krishna knew everything. And sometimes when we're in a lot of trouble or distress, we question the Lord. Do you know what I'm going through? Do you understand what I'm going through? Do you even know anything about me? You know, sometimes, I mean, I'm hoping no one does that. But the point is, that even, you know, I think we take pride in thinking that no one knows us perfectly, in a way, because when our mothers claim that I know my child best, you think of all the things she doesn't know, and you're like, if only she knew, you know. And your friends claim to know that your best friends who've known you from childhood, you know, they claim to know you the best, you know, like I know my friend the best, and you're like, if only you knew this part of me, if only you knew this side. And then we take, I think it's pride. It satisfies our egos to think that no one understands us, and it's like, oh, there's some mystery to me because I am just so different, you know. So to think that Krishna knew everything about everything, you know, that Krishna knows everything about everything, it also means that Krishna knows everything there is to know, that we know about ourselves, that everyone else know about ourselves, and things that we don't know about ourselves. He knows everything, right? And all our thoughts, all our desires, all our worries, all our distresses, all our happiness, Krishna knows everything fully. And if you were a sane person, if you are a sane person, you will, in your heart, know that I'm not the best. I have so many flaws. If people were to know me how I know me, then they wouldn't want to be around me. You know, we think of all that, but then Krishna, even though he knows all of this, even though he could perfectly be fine if he wasn't with us, he's still choosing to seat himself in our hearts, right, as Paramatma, and be there with us. You know, this whole concept of Paramatma, it makes me kind of emotional in a way that, you know, I recently in one of my courses had to look at prison documentaries, a lot of prison documentaries, and like the worst prisons of all, you know, I look at that and this one prison from Madagascar. I can send you the video. Not that I will send it on the group because I don't want everyone to see it. But it's, if you're interested, it is hellish. You know, after watching that video, I was so grateful that I had clean water to drink and food on my plate, which was somehow the same but different every day. You know, somehow the same but different every day. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's this one root vegetable that they have to eat. It's just boiled. There's no salt, and it tastes so bad that the jailers don't want to eat it. That the people who run the prison, they're like, I could eat it once, but eating that 3 times a day, they're not even served 3 times a day. 1 time a day they're served, and just spending my life like that, I could not do it. And things are so bad in Madagascar that if you're convicted of a certain crime, you're not even represented in the court. Why? Because they don't have money. They don't have money. People just, even if they're innocent, they end up spending their lives in the prison just because they couldn't afford an attorney, they couldn't afford a lawyer, and they couldn't afford to represent themselves in the court of justice, which is supposed to be the court of justice. But the judge, they're so corrupt that if you give them money, they will let you go, just like that. And it was just 30 minutes long, but I was left so shocked. The point of me saying all this is that we often think that things are unfair, you know, that no one knows my condition. This is unfair, and this shouldn't be happening to me because I do not deserve this. I haven't done anything to deserve this, right? I have tried my whole life to be the best person that I can be. I've tried my best, but still, you know, things are happening to me that I think I don't deserve. Things are happening to me that I think no one else can understand. No one else understands my pain because they're not me, and they're not growing up in the same circumstances, right? And so to think about how everyone complains a lot about things being unfair, it leads to the question, if you know, people question, if the Lord exists, why is there so much unfairness in this world, right? But what they don't understand is that they can't see past this body. They don't remember the experiences outside of this body. And so as just as hard it is to accept, but nothing in this world is unfair as such, because Krishna knows about everything. And I'm not sure why I'm going on this tangent, but it's just to show that Krishna really knows about everything that you don't know about, everything that your friends don't know about, and everything that you can't remember. And even in this lifetime, I can't remember what I ate 2 days ago. Did I eat? Yeah, so it's like, we can't perceive Krishna like that. And to know that Krishna is choosing to be seated in our hearts, why? Why? Because people in unfair situations, when they think, when they pray, when they have, you know, atheists, I've heard stories of atheists, you know, who don't believe in God, who don't believe in any existence of spirituality, when they're faced with troubles and perils so bad that they want to believe there's a God. They want to believe that there's some hope. And when that happens, when they sincerely desire in their heart, sitting in the prison in Madagascar where they don't even know how many prisoners are there and there's no way out, even then, when you have no way of representing yourselves, you know, no way of letting your heart be known to the world, Krishna knows your heart. And when you sincerely pray to Krishna, that Krishna, or like, if God exists, if there is a Lord, please show me a direction. Please show me the way out. Please help me out. You know, please give me the necessary knowledge and please help me. If you do that sincerely, then Krishna will know right away, because he doesn't even, and if even if he wasn't seated in our hearts, and he was in Golok, enjoying with his friends and associates, he would still know, right? But just because Krishna doesn't want even a second of delay in his response to our call, to our cry for help, he chooses to seat himself in our hearts as the Paramatma. And I think that is very nice of him, if anything else. And so that is about Paramatma. But it's also to think that, oh, have you heard of this phrase? To be loved is to be known. Have you heard of this? I've heard of it, and the first time I heard it, I'm like, that's beautiful, and so it shows how unconditionally Krishna loves us. He knows everything about us. He has put in his efforts, his 100%, 110% of his efforts already. All we have to do is put in some efforts of our own, right? He's going above and beyond to be available, to be there for us, even when we don't know that he exists. And all we have to do is just have the sincere desire to get to know him, to try and reconcile our relationship with him. I think in Christianity there is a picture. I don't remember the characters, but there's a picture where there is the Lord who is extending his hand like so, right? And there is this other guy who has his hand like this, right? And he's trying to reach the Lord. And everyone was confused about that picture until someone explained it, and they said that if you look at the hand of the Lord, it is extended fully, right? But if you look at the hand of this other person, he's not trying his best. His elbow is folded. His fingers are not straight. He's not trying to reach the Lord fully because he has reservations of his own, thoughts of his own. And that goes to show us, even the Damodar pastime, it goes to show us that the Lord is doing everything that he can. He can't help it. We talk about choice. It's also one of the values we learn about here at Bhakti Academy. We learn about choice and Icha and how the Lord lets us choose to love him, But even then, Krishna is just everywhere, It's, if you've grown up in India, if you were so fortunate, there is not a chance that you don't know anything about Krishna. It's like Krishna can't help himself, but make himself available even when it's very difficult. And so we will read about Brahma Samhita, right, in the coming days. And Sarthak Prabhu is lost. We'll read about it. He was really thinking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. So we'll read about the Brahma Samhita, right? And so I didn't see a point in talking about that, but I wanted to talk about what I felt after reading the translations for this chapter and knowing what I know about it and hearing what I've heard. I wanted to talk about it and mainly try to explain a little bit, even like 1% of how merciful Krishna is, and how perfect he is. He's a perfect everything. He's a perfect brother. He's the perfect friend. He's the perfect lover. He's the perfect son. He's a perfect teacher, and all he's making himself available, right? We can perceive Krishna, but Krishna came in different forms, like Amala Harinam Prabhu's pitch that I like very much. He says that Krishna comes in different forms. He comes as I forgot what his pitch was, but he said that his literary incarnation is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can't perceive him, we can't see him, so he makes himself available as the deity that we worship every morning and every day, right? And he comes, if we don't understand any of this, he just gives us few instructions in Bhagavad Gita that even if you don't want to know me, even if you don't care about me and that I exist, or my role in your life, even if that's that, and even if you want to just better the condition of your life, live a better life away from me, even if that's something you want, I'll give you all the tools that you need so that you can get what you want. Because he wants nothing else but for all of us to be happy. And he's doing all that he can to make it happen. And so all that we need to do is reciprocate. You know, we talk about reciprocation a lot in the sense that, oh, you know, I had this desire and the Lord reciprocated, right? But it's like, I think it's ironic to say that, because there's nothing more that Krishna could do, right? It's your reciprocation that everything else is now rested upon. So I just hope that this very one-sided talk was a reminder of how nice Krishna is. I don't, for the lack of the better word, you know, how kind Krishna is and how he's making himself available, and what we have to do, right? What is that we need to do? It's just say hi, you know, chant his names. And I remember a devotee saying that I'm forgetting, but it has to do with something that worshiping someone is paying attention to them. You know, loving someone is paying attention to them. And to show Krishna that I'm trying to love you is by chanting his holy names and trying to get to know him by Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all the other books that we have. And so reading is very important. And look at him, take darshan of his deity form that he has so graciously made himself available with. You know, yeah, our part is to just reach back out. Hare Krishna. We're over time, I apologize. But any quick reflections, no questions. Questions we'll take later.
Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on the gratitude you're talking about Krishna's and that this took me to represent your scenario and how we should be grateful with what we have, and a lot of people would like to exchange places with us, so
Yeah.
we should be very much grateful to what we have.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Appreciate Krishna.
About Krishna's past and we should be grateful of this opportunity and take advantage.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
You're saying that like everyone thinks that like they know us, but
Mhm.
even if we think deeply that we don't even know who we are, so we think like we will be like this. Tomorrow we will do some other thing that what
Yeah.
we should not do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also don't know what exactly we are. So the only one person in this entire universe knows us completely. From the
Fully.
birth after birth and like from the everything is Krishna. So like just depend on him.
Just depend on him. That's a good one-liner. Thank you, Prabhu.
One.
No, just depend on him is a good one-liner, is what I meant. Thank you. You had something to say. You have to say something now because you laughed.
You won't be one
I'm offended.
I
One-liner only. Thank you.
Take a time.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
I like your point of Paramatma feature. So we generally skip that whole Paramatma feature. I know incomplete
Yeah.
realization of Lord, but like yeah, that's been nice of him sitting close to our heart. That would be nice.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I remember as a child, it was a very stupid desire of me that I want to be better than everyone else. Not in a way that I want to be better than you, but it's like I would look at the adults around me and I could understand how unhappy they were with their lives. And I was like, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to live life better. I'm going to understand what life is meant to be for. And I was thinking, if only I had the guidance of someone who knew everything and could tell me everything, you know? It's like, I don't want to do the whole process of discovering everything myself. I wish someone could just guide me. And Krishna really, ironically saying, reciprocated with my desire. So that was, yeah. the Paramatma feature, I think it's the most beautiful. Anyone else? I'm sorry, yes.
Thinking of no one knows me is a pride.
I think it's right, yes.
So,
Yeah.
realize that.
Okay, yes, Prabhu.
Be grateful or be a great fool.
Now that's a one-liner. Thank you, Prabhu. You actually stayed true to your words. Thank you very much. Be grateful, don't be a great fool.
British people commented well.
Well. Okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. I apologize for going over time. Hare Krishna.